6 inmates are missing from Western Penitentiary. Police say they made a daring daylight prison break.
This doesn't happen at Western. It just can't happen.
Nuno Pontes was respected. There was an aura around him because of his high IQ.
This is a true story. It's a dramatized account based on the escapees' own recollections in letters, phone calls, and meetings.
Every security system has a flaw. And prisons are no exception.
Western Penn was the whole of the state, pretty much. As far as the inmates that we got there, I mean, it was known as a hardcore. The nickname was the Wall. It was because of the Wall, but it was also because of its reputation as being a hardcore penitentiary.
My name's Nuno Pontes. In 1992, I was sentenced to 10 to 24 years for robbery and a prior escape attempt.
One coming in?
First day, the guard said to me, "What do you want to achieve here at Western Penitentiary?" I said, "I want to escape." They all laughed. I wasn't laughing.
For a prisoner to escape from Western Penitentiary, he'd have to come up with a pretty ingenious plan, because it was a maximum security institution, had a 40-foot wall surrounding the entire prison.
In here, having to kill somebody or being killed myself was a good bet. I had to get out. Now, I was convicted of cracking safes and other robberies. I got no excuses. I'm an educated middle-class screw-up. My 2 co-defendants ratted me out and got just 5 years each. I kept my mouth shut, and I got 10 to 24 years. First con I got to know would later escape with me from Western Penn. Tom Berkelbaugh warned me that the biggest enemy in prison wasn't violent inmates. It was a routine.
I think the routine just deadens your mind and senses to where you're like functioning more like an automaton, just waking up and going to bed.
The way I saw it, any inmate who wasn't looking for a way out was being crushed by the system. I was determined not to let the boredom crush me. I set myself the task of learning something new about the prison every single day for 3 years.
They ring a bell 7 o'clock in the morning, and they start letting you out to breakfast. If you have a job, you have to be there, say, at 8:30.
My job was as a clerk in the prison industries. The building was based at the northern end of the facility, close to the perimeter wall. It contained all the services for the prison: the metal shop, the laundry, the maintenance office where I worked.
You work until you either go in for con about 10:30, or you're counted on the job.
I was supervised at work by civilian workers, right? Not prison guards. I'd earned their trust, so they let me handle tools.
Then you're let back out at around 11:30, 12 o'clock to eat.
Lunchtime was good for getting to know guys. I was looking for anyone that would be useful towards the escape.
Then you go back to your cell for 4 to 4 con.
Back in my cell, I could really concentrate. I'd draw imaginary plans of what I'd learned about the prison that day.
You get back out about 4:30, and then you hang around the yard.
I spent yard time trying to work out prison guards' routines, timings, distances, habits. On the wall, in the yard, near the gates. I was creating my own prison blueprint.
And then you lock up at 20 to 9. And then you start the whole thing over again the next day.
After doing the same thing over and over every day for 3 long years, I had a mental hard drive of information about Western Penn. I knew it, inside and out. What I needed to find was one fatal weakness to exploit. And then one morning, a throwaway comment from an engineer led me to it.
Pipes up in the upper areas of the place.
He told me the prison industries block where I worked had an underground crawl space, like a cellar. The door to this crawl space was just yards away from the maintenance office. How could I miss that? This was the breakthrough I'd been waiting for. I realized if I could get into that crawl space, I'd be hidden from view and already underground. Maybe I could tunnel out of the crawl space, under the prison wall, and come up inside of a prison supply warehouse that was on the other side. But there was a problem. To get into the crawl space door, I needed to get the key to the padlock. I started watching the guard inspections of the crawl space, and I noticed that when a guard came out, the key he used most recently was right there on the top of the pile on his ring. Somehow, I needed to steal this key. How do you steal a key from a guard in a maximum security prison? I started racking my brains. I became obsessed. And then I noticed my teeth marks on the coffee cup. And this gave me an idea. Maybe I didn't need to actually steal the key. I only needed to touch that key for long enough to make an impression on a piece of styrofoam. Great thing about prison, the guards have a routine, just like us. A week later, like clockwork, the guard came out of the basement, and I got 2 guys to get in his face when he came out.
Twice now, man. Why don't you do anything about it? What do you say?
It's amazing what a pack of smokes can buy you in prison.
I don't care about this. You guys are just the warden's black.
While the guard was distracted, I got the piece of torn up coffee cup ready in my hand, and I moved in.
Watch who you're talking to. I'm just back. Better down. No, I'm not. I know. Watch who you're talking to. Better get him.
Think about it. Everyone was moving around. I couldn't look down at what I was doing, and I couldn't let him feel me touch the key.
Clear it out. Watch who you're talking to, man. I'll show you who you're talking to. I'll do that. Watch who you're talking to. You want to go to solitary? Yeah. Watch who you're talking to, man. I'll show you.
When I finally got hold of it, I had no idea if it was working or not.
No, you don't want that.
I was so focused on the key, I'd forgotten to check if other guards were watching. I looked down at the styrofoam. There was a clear impression of the guard's key there. This was my first small victory. But I realized I couldn't do this on my own. I needed a team. I conducted my own interview process. The cons didn't even know I was doing it. I was looking for cons who had skills to offer and, more importantly, who I could trust. I got down to a short list of 5. Carmen Keller, a convicted killer. His job was delivering security passes, which meant he could move freely around the prison. George Conard, a convicted killer. He worked in the metal shop, so he had access to raw brass. Andy Hine, a thief who could hotwire cars. I'd need him on the outside. And Kevin Billingsley, convicted of robbery and assault. He'd worked as a miner, and he knew how to cut a key. And finally, I got my friend, Tom Berkelbaugh, on board. We were the Pittsburgh Six. A few days later, Billingsley slipped me a homemade copy of that guard's key. I got the crawlspace key into prison industries, but the most dangerous challenge lay ahead. In broad daylight, right under the noses of the prison guards, I had to test out this fake key without getting caught. I waited till most people were at chow around midday. I left the maintenance office and headed towards the crawl space, just yards away. This was risky. I had no possible reason to be messing with this padlock. The person most likely to spot me was the guard on the wall. The perimeter wall overlooked the entire prison industries section, including the outside of the maintenance office and the door to the crawl space. But the guard's only clear sight of the crawl space door was from the tower. He'd have to leave the tower to patrol the end of the walkway and back, which took him 17 seconds. I had 17 seconds to get to the door, test the key, and get out. I slipped into the doorway. I remember starting to count in my head. I couldn't even get the key in the lock.
This is a dramatized account of a prison break based on letters and meetings with escape mastermind Nuno Pontes. Critical to his plan, he must unlock a door with a fake key.
I remember thinking, I can't give up. The key was jamming. I felt sick. I thought, I'm out of time. Then it opened. Couldn't believe it. I locked it up again. The time was up. I got out. And there I am thinking, I just unlocked the door to freedom. I got Keller to fine-tune the key while I plotted my next move. Crucially, the fake key worked, and I'd crack. As long as I stuck to that routine, I could get in and out of that crawl space undetected. Now I needed to know if we could tunnel out of there. And there was another problem. I couldn't go in there and leave the padlock unlocked. Someone would see it. I met two of the team outside the crawlspace door at chow time. Kevin Billingsley was an ex-miner, and I wanted him down there for his engineering know-how. Because Carmen Keller was a runner, he could move freely in the prison. His job that day was to lock us in. As soon as it looked all clear, we went for it. Keller would have to come back in 2 hours to let us out again. We walked down steps into the underground crawl space. We found hard hats and flashlights, tools left by workers. Straight away, I saw the floor of the underground crawl space is solid concrete. We would never bust through that. I was thinking the plan's already dead when I spotted the wall at the far end. I figured if we could break through this interior wall, we could start tunneling out, down below the perimeter prison wall, then up into a prison supplies warehouse on the other side. But first, we had to break through the wall. Surely someone will hear us up above. We just had to risk it. Every hammer blow sounded like a clap of thunder.